We are going live in three, two, one. Hey everybody, this is Steven with Kinflow, and I've got Kevin here from momentumfitnesskc. And today what we want to really discuss is how to prepare for the gym, even though everything's for the most part closed, and not everybody has access to weights or cardio equipment at home. There are ways that you can utilize your wellness to be able to prepare yourself for when everything opens back up. And first, I want to explain really what the Kinflow Project is. The Kinflow Project is a collective of wellness minded individuals that really want to just help teach everybody about wellness. Wellness is consisted of 8 branches, and those 8 branches are your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, your social wellness, your environmental wellness, you have intellectual wellness, your occupational wellness, you have your financial wellness, and then, of course, your spiritual wellness. And it's a lot to keep in mind, but these 8 branches of your wellness really are kind of the ways that you can think about your health. If you want to improve the health of one aspect of how you live, you're able to improve the other branches of wellness at the same time. And of course, while for the most part we're here to talk about getting back into the gym, and that's very directly related to your physical wellness, there are ways that you can get your other aspects in check before that happens, so that by the time you get there, you are fully prepared. And, Kevin and I, we just want to help give you the tools that you can use to really see the maximal benefit for anything that you're trying to do. Kevin, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I actually used to work with Steven.
Hey.
I've been a trainer, personal trainer for the last, how many years? It's been 3 years now. So it's been super fun. I just got off, I was supposed to actually fly out to Southeast Asia in March, but obviously COVID happened, and, I'm stuck stateside. Not stuck stateside, I'm actually grateful to be stateside right now. But yeah, so planning to start a fitness center overseas eventually, but also kind of evaluating what starting a fitness center even means, because is that practical to do that when everything is closed? So right now I just started actually just in the start of July, I started a Instagram channel called Momentum Fitness KC, and that's just a fitness and food specific Instagram page that will just be dedicated content that would help provide uh, yeah, anything that's food or fitness related that would help during shelter in place. So
And I think that's really important because everybody's always aware that, hey, if you want to get into shape or you have some kind of fitness goal in mind, it's about what you do for your training and what you're eating outside of your training. And I think, both of us having come from the fitness industry, uh, I personally felt a little frustration with the sole emphasis on physical wellness. And part of it was this almost internal battle between figuring out, okay, how much of your time needs to be dedicated towards being in the gym and meal prepping to really get you to your physical goal. And is
right.
that really it? I mean, I know
Mm-hmm.
personally, when I was surrounded by bodybuilders all the time, I'm hearing about their 2 hour program each day. They're doing it
Yeah.
6 or 7 days a week. And even some of them had a morning routine and then a night routine. And quite frankly, I don't believe that's sustainable for your average, person who's trying to pursue
Yeah.
something greater. And what I really wanted to see was more discussion on, hey, how do you integrate your emotional well being while keeping in mind your physical goals? How can you create balance with your hobbies and your occupational wellness and still be able to support these other aspects of how you want to live? So,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where the Kinflow project came out of, just this
Yeah.
low level, medium level of frustration with the fitness industry. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, Steven, I love how you mentioned the whole occupational like hobby stuff. Can you kind of even mention a little about that? Because like I think that's what a lot of people who've even approached even the idea of fitness, a lot of them are like, we don't want to lift, we don't want to be a bodybuilder. That's like not a common thing. Or I don't want to lift weights. That's boring. Like, but I like other things. So can you kind of talk about like what's that hobbies that you've
Yeah.
been explaining?
I mean, for a lot of people, the easiest thing to relate to when you're thinking about your fitness and your occupational wellness, of course, some people go to the gym because that's their hobby. One of their hobbies is getting to the gym and working out. They might even have their, a social group that they interact with there. And that's great for your social wellness. But then, of course, you've got your other aspects of being,
Mm,
occupationally. You might also be a cook. You might be a chef. If not for a restaurant, for yourself and those around you. And that's also important because if you don't know how to cook, you could take the opportunity to learn how to cook. One, that's a new occupation that you're picking up as a hobby, as well
yeah,
as that intellectual pursuit where you're learning new skills hands on that have a tangible result and a tangible goal, even if it's something like, I want to make a grilled cheese sandwich that tastes good. And
now
that,
you're making me hungry.
I know, right? But yeah, and for myself, I have found that one of my biggest boosts to my emotional health has actually come from starting a hobby for with LARPing. Foam swords, foam shields, axes, bows and arrows, spears, all that kind of stuff. Just fighting out on a field. We don't do any magic, but the physical labor of being outdoors on a field and fighting other people who are willing to hit and be hit. I personally grew up learning a lot of different forms of martial arts with friends. I did some karate when I was younger. Picked up some taekwondo with a couple buddies, and in high school I wrestled. But outside of that part of just hanging out with people, it wasn't really until I got into the LARPing scene that I was really able to kind of integrate. Okay, this is why martial arts training is fun. It's the
Yeah.
application of your body and what you've
Right.
learned and how you can apply what you've learned to being in a live second by second scenario where
Hmm.
I personally love the adrenaline rush. And coming from the Silicon Valley, I always played video games as a kid. So really,
Yeah.
being able to hit people with foam swords and shields, that's more access to what I really wanted than I could get in a
Yeah.
virtual game.
Totally.
So,
Um,
with finding that new pursuit in my occupational wellness in the LARPing hobby, I have gotten more context for how I should be training myself, what kind of books I want to read to become a more aware fighter, a better fighter, and a more well-rounded fighter. I
yeah.
and I think part of being able to connect all those aspects of your wellness personally has really given me a lot in my life. And I just really want to be able to share that with everybody else who isn't aware that these 8 branches of wellness really even exist. I mean, our hashtag create, we have the 8 in there because there are 8 branches of wellness that most people aren't even aware of. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
I know you've come from a martial arts background yourself.
Yeah. And just even kind of go on with that too is I think when I did a little bit of kung fu when I was a kid, it was all about form, but never what you said application. And I mean, I definitely appreciated the form because now I can properly do a certain kick without being injured. But like I think the application part, sparring wasn't just something that happened. It was more of an art form. And so I think when you're talking about LARPing, which is pretty cool. Like coming from, I just love how you talking about your culture of growing up in the Silicon Valley and also being a video gamer and also just like, oh, but I can actually do this physically. Like you're actually able to apply both those things into your hobby. And I
Totally.
think you get to reap a lot of benefits from it. But something I think for me is you kind of even mentioned the whole chef thing. Like, I think a hobby I definitely developed a ton, I'd say, during college was just cooking. Like, I think, and you're kind of, I think in your last podcast, you even talked about like reading books, like after, or just even watching YouTube videos of just like fights or just martial art forms or yeah, reading the book. You actually gave me this book, the Book of Five Rings
Oh
by,
yeah.
what's the author?
It's so bad. I
Yes.
I
He's a
completely
badass
have
like
skipped
samurai
it.
dude.
It's the Book of Five Rings. I'll have to Google search it later for the author.
Right. But it's just, I think for me, it was just like for food wise, I would just almost binge watch a ton of like Gordon Ramsay videos
Oh yeah,
and,
I've been
like
there.
those 5 minute ones, or just watch like uh, movies like Chef and John Favreau and like things like that. And just eventually started even being able to practice it too. And then just realizing that even in my culture, like my whole family cooked like all the time. But the one caveat was actually like, okay, all right, I'm eating a lot, and yes, I can just like research like what's the alternative route to this, but also like how to respect the culture of like, okay, the authenticity of like, okay, I don't have to always substitute quinoa for rice, right? It's like
Oh
it's
yeah,
just learning about portion control and learning like, okay, I still want to be physically fit and practice what I preach with my clients that I'm teaching, but also learning like there's a lot of emotional factors to it. Like, this brings a lot of enjoyment when I'm cooking, when I'm like, the social aspect of like gathering people for a barbecue, and things like
definitely,
that. And it's just
definitely.
like, yeah, so it all applies, I think, all around in terms of just your hobbies and everything else in those 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yeah. And, I want to make sure that we get to our main topic of how to prepare for being in the gym. But really, this is part of preparing yourself for the gym.
Yeah.
If you know that you have a weight loss goal, this is such a key time to learn about the ways that you can choose certain foods over other foods. If you want, you can have white rice if you combine it with some kind of fat that will slow down that blood sugar absorption.
Right.
If you want, you can have, some oils in your foods, but it's about choosing the right kind of foods. But even before you choose, you want to learn about what these options are.
Right.
And I think the biggest key is just that willingness to learn. I think if you are willing to learn something new and apply it in your life, that is the recipe for success. You don't have to be good at it
Right.
right away. You don't even have to do it every day. I mean, I wake up at 5:45, 5:30, sometimes a little later, but first
Mm.
thing I do is I get up, get some coffee, read a little bit of news, do a little bit of work on the computer, and I'm in the gym making sure that I'm blessed to have a garage gym setup that I can use to keep myself in shape. But it's about forming those habits. But those habits don't form unless you're intentional about creating those habits. And I don't
Right.
do it correctly every day. I tell myself I'm going to wake up at 5:30 every single morning. I'm going to get in the gym and out of the gym by, 7 a.m. And it's not the case.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I slept until 8. And then I got up and I made a delicious breakfast that, it was healthy actually. I can't really
Yeah.
complain. But in the end, we want to make sure that you're able to approach your own health with all the tools you have available. And those tools come from your habits. I mean,
Right.
there's this one saying that, what is it? Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your identity. And I think
Mm.
there's so much power in just that openness to learning. That's where the thinking comes in. The
Right.
intention, the words that you say to yourself of what you can, will, and want to do. And then as you pick those up, even if it's only 50% consistency, that's enough.
Right.
You just want to make slow progress, if you can,
Yeah.
sustained over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I think, just getting started with, at the very least, the physical aspects of preparing for the gym. A
Yeah.
lot of people, they kind of blow off warming up. Warming up is like, okay, I'll get on the treadmill for 5-10 minutes and I'll jog to
Right.
bring up my blood circulation and core body temperature. But
Yeah.
that's, if you are training for full body movement and health, it's warming up is so much more than just getting an increase in your body temperature.
Right.
I really believe that a proper warm up not only does it prepare you to move properly for whatever your aim is at that gym session, but a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
comes into the pain prevention and the injury prevention. So, for myself and for almost all my clients, I have everybody do the
Right.
world's greatest stretch. And that one's great because you get your hips involved, your quads involved, hamstring,
Yeah.
spine, shoulders, neck. I mean, all the little things that everyone skips. And I and even though there are a lot of people that just, I only have so much time,
Right.
it's worth sacrificing 15 minutes of your weightlifting period to just add
Mm-hmm.
in 10 minutes to your warm up. So that way you can lift properly and then
Right.
lift often and regularly and in high volume. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's where I think the physical prep can come from. So you don't need to have equipment to do
Yeah.
that. I mean, Kevin, what
Right.
do you have a warm up routine, or do you have some kind of physical routine that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I especially, and I'll say this because it's like, I love that my failures have become like my, I guess, quote unquote, fertilizer for fruitfulness kind of thing.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
like just learning from my mistakes. And it was, and I think you actually were there when I was probably like my first year of training. It was like during one of the CrossFit competitions. And I think the set was 21-15-9, which is like all deadlifts at
Yeah.
315 pounds. And, my dumb self decided to you know, just do, I think, two sets of 135 as warm up. And then I rode for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I did my first set of 21 and I was like already like, okay, I'm already done. Like I'm going to break my back or something. But like, you know what? I think I can handle it because I warmed up and went into the 15 set. And the first rep that I did on that set 15, I immediately felt something just shot up. I'm like,
You
oh
know
my
what? I
God,
do remember that.
and I think I was like, Steve, like, can you help? And I was like, and I just like laid like, in like a fetal position and just realized like, all right, I got to just rest for a bit. And, I recovered in about 3 months or so, but to like that full mobility. But I think something, yeah, I definitely realized like after that, I just, no matter even if I'm just working out my upper body or just like I do a full entire body stretch, just because you realize, especially your core, you're utilizing your whole entire body for every movement.
Everything.
And
Absolutely.
and so yeah, I do some similar range of motion type of like stretch, or it's all dynamic stretching when I do warm ups now. I do still do kind of like a 2-3 minute bike run or some kind of like um, heart rate booster to just kind of get my body warmed up. But I think what I focus on the most is more of a dynamic stretching mobility type of exercise before I do any type of lifting, even before I even do any cardio. Because what you said, injury prevention is super key. And then also just kind of getting the form right, I think. So, for example, I think when I'm doing strength training, if I'm doing a deadlift, I'll actually just do the deadlift with just a bar or just even no bar or with a PVC pipe and just slowly use that movement, make sure I'm engaging my core, make sure I'm squeezing my lats, make sure I'm squeezing my glutes, my hamstrings, and making sure my form is correct before I actually do it. So,
No, absolutely. And I think the nice thing is that since in my experience, the majority of people don't do a dynamic warm up. That is the first thing that you can start learning and improving in your
Mm-hmm.
intellectual wellness, so that way you know how to physically perform even before all
Right.
this lockdown comes apart. If
Yeah.
you learn to do a proper dynamic warm up in your home, front yard, backyard, garage, it doesn't matter. You don't need equipment.
Mm-hmm.
You can always see progression and increased flexibility, increased stability, and increased control over your own body. And I know that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my friends, they're able to work from home, but you know, it's the same problem as before. A lot of sitting. And that sitting,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Oh yeah.
something about sitting that just creates a lot of tightness. And
Right.
whether, it's in your hips, whether it's in your back, neck, shoulders, I mean, being able to just start a dynamic warm up routine, just thinking physically, is the best way to
Yeah.
prepare for being in the gym. But
Right.
then, right now, I'll be honest, I feel socially uh, socially deprived because of these stay-at-home orders. So I've
Right.
actually made sure to reach out not just into the Kinflow collective, the community, the project, but also to my friends and across the country. And I want to make sure that, hey, I know that we are both people that want to work on our fitness. We have health goals. We have self improvement goals. And being able to connect yourself into a
Yeah.
network that is, at the very least, thinking in the back of their mind, how can I do this? How can I improve here, there, wherever? Having that social
Right.
group and social connection, that is going to be so key for being able to be excited for getting back to the gym, being able to be excited for starting a new program, weight loss goal, whatever sport. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot. I think when we really break it down into the wellness perspective, there's a lot to be said about the emotional state and the spiritual state.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say spiritual state as in like a specific religion or anything like that. I'm talking about, how grounded are you? Are your goals really aligned with what you need as a person, as a soul, and as someone in your community? I know plenty of people that just, they're so frustrated with not being able to be in the gym that it's
Yeah.
become almost an excuse to eat improperly or to just freely snack on delicious foods. And
Right.
without that spiritual grounding of knowing, hey, all this stuff that's going around us, it might feel like it's going to take a long time, but it is a temporary part of our lives. Being grounded in knowing that you want to improve and that you can be gentle with yourself. You don't have to
Right.
you don't have to hit the gym for an hour and a half every single day, every day of the week, every week of the year. There's ways to be
Right.
gentle with yourself to see consistent progress. I don't ever
Mm-hmm.
think it's worth seeing 2 months of amazing results at the cost of getting hurt or frustrated or burned out, and to miss out
Right.
on another month or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah. I was just thinking
there,
about that too with social isolation. Like that's a huge thing. I think that's like. I mean, I think the whole nation is probably battling with right now. And I'm just even thinking about when we worked at the gym a couple of years ago. Like most of the members that showed up, like it was the first, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes. It wasn't like let's just go straight to the gym. It was always like, hey Betty, or hey, what's so and so. It's like,
totally.
and it's a total immediate connection. They talk about their week, they talk about their day, or their whole entire like life even sometimes. And I think that aspect has totally been removed, especially during shelter in place. And so I think even in a, like what you said, in a spiritual state of mind, it's like, yeah, people are isolated. And so how do we actually um meet right now in a safe aspect, still kind of obeying the rules at the same times, still not forsaking meeting with people. So
Yeah. And I think, everyone talks about the damaging effects of, obsessive social media use, but
yeah,
just as there are bads about social media, there are goods about it as well. And I think one of the big advantages of social media is, regardless of being in a lockdown status, you have access to others that are also thinking about these similar issues. And just being able to stay tuned in and know that there's a community of people around you that want this, that want to get healthy and want to find improvement and happiness, that social wellness portion of it is going to do so much for when you can get back to the gym.
right.
And of course, we could go all day finding small examples for every single branch of wellness.
Hmm.
But I think, if I had to give, two pieces of advice to someone, I would say use your time to be gentle with yourself and know that you don't have to operate at full speed 100% of the time.
Right.
And you can take this time just to improve in one aspect of wellness, because improvement in one branch improves the other branches, even if it isn't always the obvious thing to see.
Hmm. Right.
Do you got two pieces of advice?
Yeah, I'd say hike.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
go out, especially during this time, where that's not closed yet. You know, it's in open air, open space. Most people are wearing masks throughout the hike. You get to see a beautiful view, and you get to even like invite others. You don't have to do it by yourself too. It's something that you can hike in groups and still stay 6 feet apart. Or, if you're a family, then you don't have to even worry about that. But I would say like just hiking already, like, especially I went to Big Sur 2 weeks ago, and just even seeing the coast as it was just clear, like that just like helped my mental state and my emotional state in such a crazy way. Because Monday to Fridays I have Zoom meetings, like, and not to say that this is bad, but like it's just sometimes in my mind I'm like, all right, I'm just at home kind of like
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at the screen all the time, and then being able to like look at Big Sur, and it was like, wait, this is not a wallpaper, this is like my eyes,
It's
like, and I actually am able to see this, and that was incredible, and just being able to like witness that with my buddies that were hiking with me too. We're also like, guys, this is real. It's like, it was breathtaking, and just being able to still do that within the lines of shelter in place, and also following the rules of it was open, so we went. So
No, love it. Hiking
say,
for sure.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people, when you hear environmental wellness, it's not recycling. I mean, yeah, part of it is recycling, but it's
it
the
is, yeah,
appreciation for the natural environment we live in. I mean, if you're out in
right,
if you're in a city and you're used to seeing a lot of cement, brick, mortar, I mean, there's still ways to find beauty in the natural environment, even if you're in a city.
yeah,
And that appreciation for being in nature, that spiritual awe that you feel when you realize,
yeah,
like, hey, this is what's real and around us, that does so much for your emotional health. As you said,
yeah,
it can do so much for your social health. And in the very obvious sense, you're out walking around. That's definitely an improvement in your physical wellness.
physical items, yeah, exactly.
All right, and give us one more tip before we log it out today.
Yeah, trying to think something that I think I would really recommend during the season is, I wrote down earlier, um, but I think developing habits is, and I kind of mentioned it briefly, like the quote that really stuck by was just like, failure is not failure, is fertilizer for fruitfulness. And I think it
Yeah.
really rings true during this season, where even what we've experienced in the past, like January is always the year where a lot of fitness trainers get a lot of market. at the same time, a lot of it is the whole New Year's resolution kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's not a lot of momentum that's gained from that. Usually, it's like, all right, cool. And I think just really just I think during the season, like since we're sheltered in place, we kind of have no other option to just stay home sometimes and reflect on like what habits are actually I think, or if I can say this another way, I think our habits, our bad habits, are kind of being surfaced in a sense, and we're able to kind of see which things need to be tackled. Like even what you said in the beginning, like you usually wake up at 5:30, you woke up at 8 a.m. instead yesterday, and not to beat yourself up for it, but to just be like, hey, what are things I can improve? Small improvements, like those small little improvements have really developed like and shaped. I feel like just healthy habits because if you want to just go full speed ahead like 100%, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. You're not going to develop those habits effectively or even begin to like them, I'd say. So I'd say, like, getting to know you, Steven, like, we used to always have the afternoon shifts. We would never wake up in the morning.
No, we didn't.
And to see you transform now where you're like, all right, I'm going to wake up, at 6 a.m. I'm like, wait, what? Did Steven just say that? And it's like, no, you don't look like you're drained. It's draining you right now. Like you
No,
actually
definitely not.
seen the benefits of it, but it didn't take you like overnight, right? It was something
No,
that
I mean it.
just
There are struggles, there's
yeah,
some days and some weeks that are harder than others. And I
yeah,
think the best thing you can do is exactly like you said, just be gentle with yourself
hmm
and,
yeah,
trust the process.
yeah. And especially with those that I would say that are just shelter in place and working at a desk or office, it's like you know just even implementing like 5 minutes a day into your schedule for like mobility routine in between like your office breaks or if you have a lunch break, just do those like spend 5 minutes. Small things like that can just be developed and eventually like I just naturally do it now. Like I'm just sitting and I'm like out of like my the muscle memory of just being able to like stretch like my upper body or just even my hip flexors from sitting so long. It just kind of happens naturally now, but it's because I've spent years and years doing this, and so I'd say just healthily do it and don't beat yourself up for it.
Yeah. And I mean, just to wrap it back up, the Kinflow Project, we're here to be a community of wellness minded individuals. So if you or someone is really trying to just find improvement in their life anywhere, we're here to help, and we're going to keep bringing out, content. We'll bring out other health coaches, and we want to try to explore everything that we know and things that we don't know just to keep learning. But yeah, Kevin, thanks for
Yeah,
joining in on this today, man.
thank you, thank you.
Hey, logging out now.